Two people can owe the exact same debts, pay the exact same amount each month, and still choose very different payoff plans. One plan is built for math, the other is built for motivation. When you have more than one debt, the hardest question is not always how much to pay. It is where the next extra dollar should go. Should it attack the most expensive debt, or the smallest balance you can erase first? The debt avalanche method says to list your debts by interest rate, from highest to lowest. You make the minimum payment on every debt, then every extra dollar goes to the debt with the highest interest rate until it is gone. Interest is the cost of borrowing money. A higher rate usually means the debt grows faster while you are carrying it. So the avalanche method focuses on stopping the most expensive leak first, even if that balance is not the smallest. The debt snowball method says to list your debts by balance, from smallest to largest. You still make every minimum payment, but your extra money goes to the smallest balance first, no matter what the interest rate is. The snowball method is about momentum. Paying off a small debt quickly can feel like a real win. One bill disappears. One minimum payment goes away. The progress is easy to see, and that can make the plan easier to stick with. Both methods start with the same basic rule. Stay current on every required minimum payment. These strategies are about where to send extra money after the minimums are covered, not about ignoring one lender to pay another. Imagine three debts: a credit card with a $2,000 balance at a high interest rate, a medical bill for $500 with no interest, and a personal loan for $5,000 at a medium rate. With the avalanche method, the credit card comes first because it has the highest rate. The medical bill may be smaller, but it is not growing as quickly. The plan attacks the debt that costs the most to carry. With the snowball method, the medical bill comes first because it has the smallest balance. Paying it off may not save the most interest, but it removes one account from your life and creates an early feeling of progress. That is the heart of the debate. Avalanche asks which debt is mathematically most expensive. Snowball asks which debt can be eliminated soonest. One optimizes interest savings, the other optimizes motivation and simplicity. If explanations like this help you feel more in control of money, consider subscribing. This channel is about making personal finance easier to understand, without hype, shame, or confusing jargon. To understand why Avalanche usually saves more money, picture interest as rent you pay for using someone else's money. The higher the rate, the higher that rent. Paying down high-rate debt reduces future interest charges more aggressively. A common misunderstanding is thinking the biggest balance is automatically the most urgent. But Avalanche looks at the interest rate, not just the balance. A smaller credit card balance at a very high rate can be more expensive than a larger loan at a low rate. Minimum payments can keep accounts in good standing, but they are often slow by design. If you only pay minimums, a lot of your payment may go toward interest. Both Avalanche and Snowball create a focused extra payment that speeds up the payoff. After the first debt is paid off, the old payment does not disappear into spending. You roll it into the next target debt. That is where both methods become powerful. Your focused payment gets larger without requiring a brand new habit. In an avalanche, once the highest rate debt is gone, the extra money moves to the next highest rate. Then it moves again. The order is always based on which remaining debt has the highest interest rate. In a snowball, once the smallest debt is gone, the extra money moves to the next smallest balance, then the next. The order is always based on which remaining debt can be fully cleared soonest. Debt is not just arithmetic, it is emotional. If you feel overwhelmed, a plan that takes months before anything disappears can be discouraging. The snowball method gives visible proof that the situation is changing, which can help some people keep going. But motivation is not free if it causes you to leave a very expensive debt untouched. The longer high-rate balances remain, the more interest they can create. Snowball can be helpful, but it may cost more than Avalanche when rates are very different. The best method is not the one that sounds smartest in theory. It is the one that actually gets you out of debt. For some people, that is the Avalanche, because they are motivated by saving interest. For others, it is the Snowball, because early wins matter more. Avalanche tends to fit people who can stay patient, track numbers, and keep going without frequent emotional rewards. It is especially useful when one debt has a much higher rate than the others, like a costly credit card compared with a lower rate loan. Snowball tends to fit people who feel stuck, scattered, or tired of juggling many separate bills. If crossing one account off the list gives you energy, the Snowball method can turn a messy debt situation into a series of manageable steps. You are not required to treat these methods like rival teams. Some people start with one or two tiny balances for quick confidence, then switch to Avalanche for the remaining debts. A hybrid plan can combine motivation with interest awareness. Before throwing every spare dollar at debt, it can help to keep a small cash buffer for real emergencies. Without any cushion, one car repair or medical bill can push you back onto the same credit card you are trying to pay off. No payoff method works well if new debt keeps replacing the old debt. Avalanche and Snowball are repayment strategies, not magic tricks. They work best when paired with a realistic budget, controlled spending, and a plan for irregular expenses. Before choosing an order, check the details. Look at balances, interest rates, minimum payments, fees, promotional rates, and due dates. A zero-interest promotion, a late fee, or a penalty rate can change what your smartest next move looks like. Some debts are tied to an asset, such as a car loan. Falling behind can create consequences beyond interest charges. Payoff strategies should never distract from staying current on essential secured debts, housing costs, taxes, or court-ordered obligations. If an account is in collections, seriously overdue, or creating legal pressure, the simple Avalanche versus Snowball choice may not be enough. In those cases, the first priority may be stabilizing the situation, understanding your rights, and getting trustworthy help. A useful way to compare methods is to run the numbers. Write each debt, balance, rate, and minimum payment. Then test what happens if your extra payment goes to the highest rate first versus the smallest balance first. Then run the feelings test. Ask which plan you are more likely to follow for months, even when life gets boring or stressful. A slightly cheaper plan that you abandon may be worse than a slightly more expensive plan you actually complete. One common mistake is spreading extra money evenly across every debt. That feels fair, but it can slow progress. Focus is the key. Minimums go everywhere. Extra money goes to one target until that target is finished. Another mistake is confusing monthly payment size with interest rate. A loan with a large monthly payment is not automatically the best Avalanche target. Avalanche cares about the rate because the rate tells you how expensive each borrowed dollar is. Whichever method you choose, make progress visible, track balances going down, mark each paid-off account, celebrate without spending more debt. The goal is to make the payoff process feel real long before the final balance reaches zero. If you want the method that usually saves the most interest, choose Avalanche. If you need early wins to stay committed, choose Snowball. If both are true, use a hybrid and be honest about what keeps you consistent. Debt payoff is a race between interest, habits, and patience. Avalanche fights the math hardest. Snowball fights discouragement hardest. The right plan is the one that lowers your balances, protects your peace, and keeps you moving until the debt is gone. If you have a question about Debt Avalanche, Debt Snowball, or how to choose between them, leave it in the comments. You can also suggest the next money topic you want explained in plain English.